The last 2 weeks I've been on holiday, completely out of the loop, and of course during that time DeFi went completely bananas. I mean, totally crazy. This guy had it right.
I feel bad for reporters in DeFi. You're not even done writing the story and it's gonna be out of date.
You're goddamn right.
Now we would have loved to do a film all about yams and the rebase, which is a pretty savage story in and of itself, but this is DeFi.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
And hands down, the weirdest, gnarliest, most bafflingest story of all is the one that blends a classic meme.
Hello, Chad.
Overpriced seafood with possibly the most dazzling act of chutzpah the space has ever seen. Yes, this is the launch of the Curve token. You're watching the Defiant, and this is gonna be a doozy.
It's a doozy!
First, we need a bit of context. 2020 has been, without a shadow of a doubt, the year of DeFi. The explosive growth in stablecoins, liquidity provision, composable protocols, and of course governance tokens has meant the brave, the lucky, and the downright degenerate have had one hell of a year. What tends to happen in crypto is that something gets hot, the hordes sweep in and get busy with it for a short while, and then they move on. And during a bull market, this becomes a veritable frenzy as traders, drunk on gains, throw caution to the wind in search of the next score. And the farming metaphor is doubly apt because these hordes basically operate like a horde of locusts.
I'm hungry.
Plundering everything in their way and then moving on. And as a species, crypto hordes are actually very short on imagination. Once a particular narrative takes hold, like governance tokens, they just keep repeating it over and over and over in the hopes of enjoying the same success until there's literally nothing left. Now, governance tokens are
So hot right now. So hot right now.
we had Comp, we had BAL, we had Wi-Fi, we had Yams. But there was one very highly thought of project that hadn't come to the party yet, even though they had a token ready to go. And the frenzied horde was starting to lose patience because this particular token looked like a slam dunk surefire hit. Hello? Hang on a second, you're not Camila.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Cooper here. Cooper Chupa, as I'm known on Twitter.
So as far as I know, you're a regular contributor to the Defiant. So you're the perfect person to tell us about Curve. Can you give me some background on Curve, why people were excited about this one in particular?
Yeah, I mean, Curve has been a community standing project for a better half of a year at this point. I think that any yield farmer knows that Curve was one of the first projects to sort of capitalize this whole yield farming trend. It's very pseudo-anonymous and sort of community grounded. So I think for the anon Twitter profiles of the world, this project really spoke to the ethos of building something from the ground up. People didn't really expect it to get to this level, and it just continually keeps exceeding expectations. And when you go to that landing page and see that UI, it just perfectly speaks to this as a very crypto native thing that is just what people expect it to be, I think. The amount of DeFi IQ you have to know, not only to interact with Curve, but to sort of get what's going on under the hood. There is a level of complexity with this protocol that only the people deepest down the rabbit hole know about it. And as of lately, that's sort of taken center stage. But Curve has for a long time been this yield farmer's paradise where people can go and know that they're amongst yield farmers, they're amongst people who live and breathe DeFi every day.
Okay, time for a quick primer on Curve. It's a decentralized exchange, but more importantly, it's the second largest after Uniswap, with $531 million in volume in the last 7 days. Not bad for a peer-to-peer exchange with an interface that looks like it was built in MS-DOS. Personally, no, I'm not a fan, but it's certainly distinctive. Curve leverages a unique AMM curve design, hence the name, which mitigates slippage for trading pairs like USDC to DAI and WBTC to RenBTC that are pegged to the same value. Curve collects yield by lending collateral across Compound, ARV, and DIDX, offering liquidity providers an attractive hybrid of 0.04% trading fees plus interest. The recent Wi-Fi rush, and check out our recent video for more on that one here, which began with traders providing liquidity to Curve's Y pool in exchange for Wi-Fi, saw a huge surge in locked assets, racing past $200 million and peaking at $450 million. But that is nothing compared to what happened when the CRV token itself launched. Presumably Curve had a deadline for when they wanted to launch the Curve token. They had a timeline. How was it possible for some anonymous guy to just take it over? How did that happen?
One of the things people don't talk about a lot with open source development is it's literally open source. Not anyone will go through the trouble of doing what this anonymous individual did, but they had full control to deploy all the contracts. They're all publicly available. No tweaks necessary for him, really. He just basically took his know-how and just put it live on mainnet.
Basically, here's how it went down. An anonymous developer spent 19.9 ETH, around $8,000, to deploy the Curve contracts, which were public and available to view on Curve's GitHub. Now, with everything transparent and viewable on-chain, it didn't take long for Twitter user Frank Researcher to spot it and post speculation that Curve was about to launch the token. But Curve's project lead, Charlie, quickly replied,
"This is a scam, buddy."
And normally, that's where things would end. But that is actually when things got weird, because you see the anonymous deployer specified this address as the admin wallet, which does look a little weird to be sure, but it's actually a joke. Those last alphanumeric characters actually read Lobster DAO. That's right, Lobster DAO. And that's where things started to get really bananas. In a modest Telegram group called Lobsters, run by ex-LTO Network CMO Ivan Golovko.
So Curve team is very open. So when we shared the smart contract thing that was on Twitter, we just tagged them to check, to verify whether it was actually real or not, because it wasn't supposed to be, since there was no announcement. Immediately when we started chatting, the conversation got to something like they were both saying like, "Oh, wow, this is really the same as we have." Then they said, "Wow, it's the same script that we had to do for launch." Then they said, "Oh, damn, this is just the same stuff. Like, that's our project. Somebody just deployed it from GitHub."
So what happens next is an anonymous user with the handle OXC4AD posts on Twitter, "Yo, Curve Finance, I saw your DAO is ready to rock, and I got to maximize my alpha. So I went ahead and deployed it for you. Get at me in DM to verify. Let's get this party started." And yeah, you got it. OXC4AD is actually alphanumeric for Chad.
Chad.
Which, if you didn't know, is the descriptor for a human of supernatural balls and crypto douchebaggery. Now, the Curve team advised caution at this early stage, which is what they should have done, while they audited the code to ensure there were no hidden exploits and that it was indeed deployed as it should be.
After some time of deliberating and arguing about this stuff and like figuring out who decided to scam it or made the joke, and there was the name Lobster DAO in it and the 0x chat, and then it dropped in the chat. And they were like, okay, this is pretty clear at this point. Like at that point, we realized this is it.
So in a chat populated by Galaxy Brain meme heads, an anonymous meme hero front-run the other meme heads, earning himself maximum chat points and legendary status.
Legendary!
The other thing that should be said about Lobsters is that pretty much everyone there considers themselves OG, cynical, seen it all before. And yet none of them had ever seen anything like this.
I mean, that's pretty cool. I was really honored. I was really surprised because at the beginning, I thought one of the admins of the chat made it just for fun and it wouldn't be launched. But then it turned out that was actually the thing. And then all the discussion happened there and there was quite a lot of attention. So, of course, it was really, the adjectives would be excited, honored, in a way, humbled. That was pretty cool.
Of course, farmers piled into the contract before the front end had been released, chasing those early gains once more. It was, yep, completely and utterly bananas. Even Charlie himself said, "I think it's kind of cool personally." But then, of course, there was the inevitable backlash.
I don't think that it's wrong. I think that where people got upset about it is that those who took exponential risk and basically blatant disregarded the rules, the fact that the Curve team said, "Hey, do not buy this thing, do not mine it, we don't trust it," and then people went ahead and did that anyway and were rewarded for doing so. I think that's what sort of rubbed people the wrong way. The people who actually take risk very seriously and the people who are in this for very proper reasons, they kind of got burned by the fact that they followed the rules. I think it's a dangerous precedent to allow people to feel like they should be rewarded for going above and beyond what risks are supposed to be followed and sort of what that looks like. Let's just be honest here. I think that everyone knows in DeFi that this launch was very peculiar. And the fact of the matter is how it happened was something that raised a lot of questions. I think that this type of launch is not something we've ever seen in DeFi before. And I think that the way it happened was far too many things that pointed towards it being a little bit less holistic or organic as people suspected it to be.
Officially, it's, unofficially and officially, it's some random account from a chat, supposedly, who launched it, and the team just decided to roll with it. I don't think anybody has doubt that it wasn't a random person. That it was a random person. It was probably someone from the team, but for the sake of legal arguments and for the sake of just community spirit, nobody says that, and we just all say nobody's Chad and everybody's Chad. That's it. There is no point in figuring out who the owner was. There is really no difference.
The thing that everyone's pointing to is just legal ramifications, right? Curve is a $1 billion protocol. It's aggregating some of the most traction in DeFi as a whole. It's a very pseudo-anonymous project. I think that when it comes to putting a target on people's back, something like this is a good scapegoat, for lack of a better term. I think that it's very unclear whether or not that was the case, but when you sort of put all the facts together, there's a case to be made that this was a very strategic legal move for anything that happens in the future with the project.
So can you kind of unpack that a little bit for me in terms of what they could be exposed to legally, being the kind of project that they are?
Yeah, so when you think about the token itself, right, the way that it's traded and sort of the implications around token price, when a community member deploys the contracts for you, the argument that you are decentralized from day one becomes a lot more transparent than if the Curve team had deployed the token, there was an immediate listing on Binance, and there was all this speculation around it. It's able to be clouded in such a way that this is a community-owned project and always has been, rather than it being the efforts of a few core developers who are bringing this token to market.
Banana.
Since the launch of the token, the total liquidity on Curve has jumped to more than $800 million. The elusive Chad has maintained his anonymity, and farmers have made a killing. As someone who's been present in lobsters since the early days, it's entertaining to see ideas that were joked about in loose banter implemented in such a well-orchestrated way. So, salute to Ivan. I know this would have put a big smile on his face. And that brings me to my final point. Many people come to crypto because they've heard of outsized gains and they want a piece of the action. But if they stick around for any period of time, it's for a whole other reason. Crypto is a soap opera. A giant, sprawling, epic melodrama being written 24/7 in markets, Telegram groups, and Discord channels. The narrative is the thing. And as someone who spent their entire professional life telling stories, this is what makes it so fun. And when a narrative like this comes along, it just reminds you that for all that software is eating the world, as A16Z puts it, there's still room for our souls to be nourished by that most human of all foods, story. It's bananas, and I love it. I've been Robin Schmidt alongside Camila Russo, and this was the Defiant.
Yes! It was good, it was good. Spot on.
Completely bananas. Bananas.
Oh, sorry.
Bananas.